So, what we want to talk about today is how do we take a habit from aspiration to automatic? And I know that many of you, including myself, are struggling with this challenge that we identify some practice that we want to incorporate into our lives. We know it's going to have benefits for us, but it is an aspiration that we really struggle to translate into a behavior that we just have as a routine that we do automatically every day or at the right time when we need that to deliver benefits for us. And so what this session is really taking some wisdom from James Clear, who has written a phenomenal book, which I really urge you to get and to read in full, called Atomic Habits. And James Clear, he spent years looking at this. And his book is really a distillation of years of work that he did. He also has a great blog, which I think is just under James Clear. It maybe used to be called Atomic Habits, but there's amazing material there. He also has an online course where he has kind of distilled his best practices in about 20 videos, and I would really recommend that as well. So tons of material there. What I'm doing today is just taking a small piece of what he has to offer, because I think it's so important for those of us who are really working to build up our practices, our routines to support our best selves. And before I go further, I want to talk about one other idea that he has, which is the power of compound interest. And we've talked about this a lot in our work together, that when you identify a positive practice for yourself and you incorporate it into your life on a daily basis, it starts to pay dividends that compound from one day to the next. And so getting a habit to be from aspiration to automatic really allows you to get the benefit of that compound interest because you're doing it so consistently. If you get just 1% better at something every day and you do that, every day for a year, he points out in his book that you're actually 37 times better by the end of the year. So amazing, the kind of transformation that you can develop when you don't even notice it from day to day. It doesn't feel different. It's just that you figured out a way to engineer it into your life on a daily basis. So the first thing we want to talk about here is that really in his research, and he's drawn on a lot of other people to put this together, there's really a science of habit formation and behavioral psychology that has come into being in the last 20 or so years that's really, really valuable. And the first idea that we want to talk about today is that there are 4 stages in forming a habit. And they are like a cycle, but they happen in the same order. And he makes this really important point that if a behavior does not meet the bar in any one of these 4 stages, it's not going to become a habit. It has to have this cue, a craving, response, and reward. And if you don't have the first 3, you're not even going to do anything at all, right? And without putting them all together in this stack, it's not going to become something that you do repeatedly. So I think it's helpful to break this down a little bit. And in order to do that, I'm actually going to do it with reference to the model of psychology that we've used a lot. And this representation of it is, it's something that I continue to work on, but this is the latest way that I'm representing it. And what I want to do is kind of walk you through these 4 stages. Again, cue, craving, response, and reward in the context of sort of understanding what's going on for yourself psychologically so that you can begin to think like an engineer and rewire yourself to make it as easy as possible to form a positive habit, and likewise to break bad habits. So this idea of cue really comes into being around external events. Something is the cue. You see something or something happens in the world around you that is a cue for you, right? That triggers a craving. And the craving originates in what we call, you remember in this construct, we have the system 1 brain, which is sort of your primitive reactive, responsive brain. And we have system 2, which is your higher level faculties. And the cue and the craving, the cue happens outside of you. The craving gets triggered by your kind of primitive brain. And what this is really about is an idea that you're going to be able to meet some of your immediate needs by performing a behavior, that you're going to get a reward. And so you go from cue to craving, like, wow, now I really want to do this behavior so that I will be able to meet my needs. And so you see a habit form. It doesn't, when it really gets automatic, it doesn't engage your higher level faculties at all. It goes from external events to your system one brain into sort of the way you process how you're going to meet your needs, all the way down to a behavior. There's sort of an automatic flow there. And when all that stacks up to support a positive behavior, that's how you can get to a place where when you set your trigger for that habit, it just happens automatically and you don't have to think about it. And that really is what we're playing for, because we all know that when we have the intention to establish some new behavior in our life, but we don't actually have a structure, we haven't engineered a support system for that intention, then it's really by luck or sheer willpower that we're trying to follow that behavior. And we all know, again, that when we have lots of stresses and challenges in our lives, as we do now in the midst of a pandemic, trying to adopt some new behavior relying on your willpower is just not a winning formula. So let's break it down a little bit further. James Clear really has this idea that there are 4 laws of forming a good habit. And the first is about the cue. Make the cue obvious. So the cue, remember, is something in your external environment. So if there's some behavior that you want to adopt, and let's say it's meditation on every evening you want to spend a little bit of time in mindfulness. You want to find a cue that is outside, that's sort of outside of you, that you're going to encounter on a guaranteed basis. You want to make it obvious that cue is going to be there. And I have worked with one person for whom the cue was shutting the door to her daughter's bedroom. Every night as she put her daughter to bed, you can shut the door to her bedroom, and then that, hey, that's as my hand leaves that doorknob, that's the cue for the behavior that I want to have. And the craving, you want to make it attractive, right? Again, think about how to make this something that is really going to meet your needs. And sometimes it takes some imagination here, but again, when you apply that engineer's mindset, you want to think about, how can I make this behavior something that I have this confidence is going to satisfy one of my needs. And intellectually, so you want to make sure that you've sort of made the case to yourself intellectually that the behavior is going to be valuable. And meditation is a great example of that. I was convinced for a long time that meditation had benefits, but I didn't actually believe that it would work for me, because I thought I couldn't calm my mind, I couldn't still my mind, I didn't think it would work for me. So I wasn't actually craving it, I wasn't attracted to it. So again, if you have this aspiration for a behavior, but you're not actually persuaded that it is really beneficial for you, you need to go back and figure out and get yourself to a place where you truly believe that it's an attractive thing that you actually want to do. Third is this idea of response. Make it easy. And maybe another example here would be journaling. If you keep a journal, make it easily accessible. Make it a tiny book that fits in your pocket. Just be thoughtful about how you do it so that you're not creating an obstacle for yourself on the way to actually satisfying that craving. And then lastly, make it satisfying. And so, with some of these behaviors, you have to kind of give yourself permission to do something for a while before you start to feel that it is deeply satisfying. But a lot of times you can get satisfaction initially from the consistency of having made a commitment to do it and following through on that commitment. So there are times when you're establishing a habit when, again, the benefits are going to be long-term. But the immediate satisfaction is, hey, I made a commitment to myself and I'm following through on that. And so I'm experiencing alignment that I said I would do this and now I'm doing it and I'm sort of living out my values. So that's another example of just a way to kind of trick yourself in a way that if the benefits are really long-term, you're not going to see them right away, then find a way to achieve satisfaction in the moment. And on the flip side of this, you can engineer your way out of a bad habit in a similar fashion. hide the cue. If there was a trigger for you to do something that you don't find valuable, and many of you, and myself included, have talked about social media as something that you want to do less of or have less of in your life. One of you recently shared with me, got a new phone and just didn't install certain social media apps on the phone. Make it invisible. If it's not on your phone, it's not there for you, right? So you don't get cued, and then you don't experience the craving, and the whole cycle can't happen. Craving, make it unattractive. So again, you may have to get creative here, because if there's something that has been in your life that you are attracted to, and now you need to make it unattractive, one of the ways to do that is actually think about the hidden costs of that behavior. So another example here would be for people who, and again, I've at points in my life found myself wondering, now, why in the world did I watch that show on Netflix or whatever? Why did I watch that episode? And the thing that you want to think about there is the time that you spend, right? If you spend half an hour a day, mindlessly scrolling through social media or watching videos that have no value for you beyond the moment, then add it up. Well, it's 3.5 hours a week. How much time is that per year? And pretty soon you get to something you're like, wow, that is unattractive. I do not want to spend my time doing that. So again, you want to be thinking creatively about how to make the behavior unattractive in a way that's obvious to you. And sometimes you have to get outside of the moment in order to do that. Make it difficult. This is similar to making it invisible. It's just put a barrier between you and that behavior. Make it hard to do. So this is the classic one. If you want to be fully present with your family, for example, many of us have a way of doing that by putting our device, down. As soon as you come in the house, put it down, right? Don't carry it around in your pocket so that anytime you have a moment, you're pulling it out. Make it difficult to do the behavior. And then make it unsatisfying. And again, this is sometimes challenging to think about. If you've had something that really has been a source of deep satisfaction for you, you may have to take a step back and think about, well, what is really meeting my needs here? And if you think about this back through the lens of our psychology and our drives, there's this distinction between egocentric lower level drives, security, novelty, social status, social connection, and higher level self-actualizing drives like social contribution, self-evolution, self-transcendence. And a lot of times you might find something satisfying because it's helping you meet a lower level need. And when you get creative, you realize there's actually many ways to meet that need. And this behavior that I want to get away from is actually interfering with my ability to meet these higher level needs that I have. So there are a lot of ways to think about this, but I wanted to just share this framework with you from James Clear and connect it to the conversations we've been having about psychology and how our wiring works, so that you can really apply that engineer's mindset and engineer your way to good habits and engineer your way out of bad habits. And when you do that, when you go again from a behavior that's an aspiration to a behavior that's automatic, you get the power of compound interest. And that compound interest pays out in a transformative way for your joy and your impact when you establish these consistent behaviors. If you like this video and you want to access the worksheet or any other material that goes with it, just click the link below or head on over to joyfulimpact.co. That's the website where we have all the material we use for working with coaching and personal development for change agents. You can set up a free account in the members area, and you can also check out the blog where we have new content coming out all the time. Why are we putting all this out there for free? Because the world has never been more in need of a new greatest generation of change agents. I hope this material is helpful to you, and if it is, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. That will help us spread the word.